Social media already has a verdict on the new BMW i3. Is it too simple? Is it not BMW enough? But to see if they're right, I'm going to go straight to the source. So right here with me, I have Oliver Heilmer, the head of design of i3, 3 Series, middle class, M, quite a lot. Thank you for taking the time once again. We've done this in the past, so I appreciate you taking the time to actually walk me through some of the design decisions on this car. I know they're not easy questions, so I'm gonna go straight for the first one. Are you ready?
Never.
All right, so let's see what the internet says about the BMW i3. First question, taillights. A lot of people say that the rear looks too plain, especially compared to the concept car. The Vision concept had the light bars in the back, a little bit taller, all of that. Now you simplify the rear end. So maybe we start with that and we walk to the back and you can tell me some of the design decisions on that.
What I can say, Horatio, the most important thing for us was to kind of emphasize the width of the 3 Series. One point. Second point is the L-shape taillights is something that we kind of implemented a couple of years ago, and that's now the cleanest way of creating that L-shape. What helps us a lot, we said, okay, this car is the most precise one and the most modern one as well in terms of technology. And what we achieved here, or the engineers, is to, let's say, have the narrowest taillight ever. And that's something we really celebrate with the 3 Series. So from far away, it will look even more expensive than every C Series before. So we believe the L shape is more important than a complicated graphic. And we strongly believe that this kind of is, let's say, the perfect picture from a rear from a 3 Series.
What would you say to someone that says maybe the front end is a little bit busier, a little bit more digital, phygital, as you guys call it, versus this one that looks more like a traditional BMW? So maybe you see this disconnect, because when you see the front, you expect kind of the same lights in the back and all of that.
So, well, first of all, shall we go to the front?
Yeah, let's go to the front one more time.
The technology is, let's say, as precise in the rear and in the front. That's something that we have in common. The front, and we are talking about a BMW front, so it has to be on point. What we did with this front end, we achieved to create a really, really strong character. And we were looking into the past of BMW, where everything was kind of having already this horizontal emphasis. And we found some very old sketches where you only had this kind of two kidneys, big kidneys, as one strong graphic element. And that's what we did again. There is a new interpretation of the iconic headlights, but it's still 4-eyed. That's important, that it still remains BMW. And then in the center, you will find this kind of what we call the echo of the bigger kidney. We believe it's a really strong character. We're really emphasizing the, let's say, the visual impact of the new 3 Series, and you will see it on the road. Something, and we know about the fact that sometimes it's in the beginning a little bit hard to read. We had a lot of kind of clinics in terms of how do you perceive it after, let's say, 2 or 4 times. And then what happens suddenly, the 4th time is, and that's, let's say, something that is happening from a human point of view, you instantly are recognizing it as a BMW and as a 3 Series.
So that was my question to you, because that was the next question that I had. A lot of people say, well, does it still look like a BMW from the front end? And I'm going to give you the example of the big kidneys on the current generation cars, basically. Initially, people complain about that very, very, very strongly. Now they love it. And they love it now because they say, it still looks like a BMW. There's still the big kidneys there. So will you say that the nighttime when this car comes from behind, will you recognize it as a BMW? Or maybe point out to other elements that you will say, aside from the double headlamps, they will say, yeah, this is a BMW car.
So I think what's important is the big illuminated graphic. The shark nose ending here, you know, it's kind of leaned forward. So from far away, what you will read is the strong outline of those big kidneys with the headlights. It's actually the combination. And you've seen it in the show already. That's something you probably know more from, let's say, a BMW 507 or from BMW Z8, where we had already the big kidneys. So we believe that's a real BMW. And it's kind of emphasized as well in the center, where we are working with this, we call it the valley, which kind of emphasizes again this kidney and these two elements that are coming together in the center.
Now, you mentioned something very interesting, and I got to follow up on that. You said that you're looking at some old sketches. How old were these sketches? I'm kind of curious now with the kidney.
60s, 50s.
Wow, okay, so
Really
that far
old.
back. Okay, so
Yeah.
even before the 1500 car, basically.
Yeah, this was amazing. It was, we have a fantastic archive, and we were looking into those sketches, and some of those sketches, even from a today's perspective, were like really modern. We said, okay, this is BMW, then let's take it, because it's the one and only chance when we are talking about Neue Klasse to take something that already happened within the design team in the past.
Okay.
That's fantastic, actually.
So now let's move to the side since we're here. That's something that I just thought about it right now, because this is a curveball right there.
Oh, come on. It's always
basically, that is true. I got to catch you by surprise. But no, a lot of people see the side, and it's very clean, very cool looking, I would say, in my opinion. But I guess because of the platform, would you say that the proportions of a typical sedan have changed a little bit?
Well,
and I'm talking more specifically to just point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
BMW is known for like the very long hood, and then of course you have the longer overhangs like in the rear.
Yeah.
So a lot of people notice that from the side.
Well, I must say in terms of proportion, what we achieved is to shorten the front overhang. That worked pretty well. That's what you've seen here. Yes, it's due to the fact that we have, let's say, an electric platform underneath. But the greenhouse, so this is the interior space, the greenhouse is still sitting slightly backwards. So you still have this impression of a longer hood and a shorter kind of trunklet. So you still feel that. And what's even more important for us, BMW is celebrating the sedan. So we really have this kind of 2.5 box design or 3 box design where we really kind of celebrate the sedan from a BMW perspective. A sporty sedan, that's BMW, and that's what you still find regardless of the platform underneath.
Okay, so before we go inside, because there's still a topic that's maybe on the outside, I'm going to read it one more time. It's a little bit longer. So people say that they're worried about the visibility with the panoramic vision because the base of the windshield looks too high and that you won't see the front of the car naturally. Do you think that's a concern?
The good thing is, I know
we can
what
look
we
at the
did.
windshield. Okay.
So the windshield stayed at the same height. So what we pushed down is the interior.
Okay.
So sitting in the car, let's say your reference, this point here is exactly at the same height as before.
Really? As on the current generation 3 Series, so the G20.
So everything that happened inside as we pushed the dashboard down.
Gotcha.
So it works pretty well. I tried it out, so this is not an issue. But it helps a lot in the interior to kind of gain more visual space. The roominess is increased by the fact that we pushed it down inside. But outside it works pretty well. So you're able to you see that point, you kind of feel the center, you still are able to see the valley as well, which is important to kind of get this impression of, oh wow, that's a dynamic BMW, even from inside.
Gotcha. Should we go inside now?
That's a good,
so I'll let you take the driver's door. All right, Oliver. So,
welcome.
Thank you. So it feels familiar, I would say, because of the iX3. But let me pull up the questions. So, one of the complaints inside, the car might look a little bit too simple than premium minimalistic. Why did you go this far with this design approach?
I personally believe, first of all, everything is becoming more and more complex in the world. We said, okay, let's reduce it, let's calm it down. But what you still find, regardless of the fact that you as a customer can choose, this is digital white, but you can have different materials, different textiles. You can have it like really sporty with the M Sport package, for instance. But what you feel here is this dynamic, this dropping line in the doors, which lowers the, let's say, the center of gravity in the dashboard as well. What is different? The display is tilted towards the driver. So there is a physical driver orientation, and you will feel it. That's something you might not be able to see on a camera, but when you're sitting here, you really feel that sportiness. And the rest of, let's say, the driver orientation is happening in the digital way. So for us, we believe that's something where you won't get bored on a daily basis.
Now, question
You
for
will
you.
appreciate it.
You will appreciate as you drive the car.
Yeah.
So it's all about driving the car, really. I mean, we talked about this quite a bit, and honestly, I had a chance to experience the panoramic vision on the iX3, and I got used to it pretty quickly, honestly. Like at some point, it just became second nature. So I'm assuming this one would be the same. But a fun question to ask is, how much time have you spent on the exact angle of the screen? Because I'm assuming it was not an easy decision.
Another surprise question. Well, a lot. A lot.
But what was some of the thinking behind, like, not too much, not too little? Like, how do you determine what's the right angle?
You know, the funny thing is that in the beginning, we thought, okay, there is one angle and we just, you know, bring that angle through to every product. The fact is that every product is different. In the 3 Series, we said, okay, let's find the perfect kind of angle in terms of, as a driver, you're able to reach each corner here. But as a passenger, you shouldn't feel like excluded, right? So this was then, honestly, it works like that. You're sitting in interior, you have kind of a piece of just paper, turning it, trying it out and say, that's the angle that we should achieve. And then we're going to measure it. So it's happening the other way around. It's really that what you would like to have as a human being. And this angle might be different in another model. It always depends on, let's say, the context of the car.
So that was one thing that I'm happy you mentioned it earlier too, because a lot of people are also worried based on the comment that I see that now every BMW will look exactly the same inside, no differentiation. And you know, it's nice to see that you're thinking about each model individually, not
Absolutely.
as a, you know, same sausage, different length, or whatever they used to call it, basically. Yeah. So that's quite cool and refreshing in a way, because you kind of want the car to be personalized to you. You
yes.
know, a 5 or a 7 versus a 3 or an iX3 or an iX5 or all of that.
You know, and the proportion always is different. That's something you, in a direct, if you compare it directly with the iX3, for instance, that's a sporty proportion. You're sitting lower. You know, the dashboard is way narrower. You feel it as well. And what's more important, that with the, let's say, the panoramic vision, that is so strong. That's something that we wouldn't just have exclusively in one model. That's something that every customer in the future should you know, be a part of. And by the way, do you see the hood from here? You see the hood, right?
I do. Yeah, that's
so that's
honestly,
something you see it.
Yeah, definitely, you definitely see it. I mean, it's a valid point, because you don't want to be too low, not be able to see that, and only see the screen, because then of course,
and it was a
discussion. You don't know where the car is going, basically.
Yeah. And something that helps, you see this kind of area here outside where we kind of are breaking up the, let's say, the black part of the...
So this one right here, so basically that area, that's it's a functional piece, it's not just a
It's a functional piece because it helps us to, as a customer, to have a reference where the bonnet is, where the hood is, from especially when you're looking into the diagonal angle.
Turning, basically.
And then you see it, and that's important. Yeah.
Very, very cool. You see those little details that they're not covered in that lengthy press release.
No, but it's an indication that we are looking into each corner, because we know those possible problems, which aren't problems when you are kind of approaching it in the right way.
I still think that people don't realize that a car takes almost 7 years to be produced, and 7 years
less, really, a little bit less,
or a little bit less, but it takes a long time to make a car, so you have to look at every single thing, from regulations to design to ergonomics to, I'm assuming, the psychology of the driver, the passenger, and all of that, to make decisions on the UI, UX, and all of it.
Absolutely.
Based on what I know from the outside. So that's very refreshing. Now, I'm gonna let you pick the last complaint inside the car. Let's see if you're gonna guess it. Was the same thing with the iX3, so I can
many surprises, too many surprises. We didn't talk about that before.
That is true. So which one do you think?
Come on.
Should I give you a hint?
Yeah, please. Oh yeah, again.
So the steering wheel, right? So it's polarizing in a way, and I talked to Adrian Van Hooydonk as well yesterday, and he mentioned a very good point where he said he actually saw the comments, back in the day from the clinics, and he went to the racetrack to try the car, doing all of this and change it out to see if it's a problem. And he said that it wasn't really.
Right.
But of course, it's polarizing because it's new, right? We're not used to having the spokes there, and it's the number one complaint that you see today, because you are using this as the positioning steering wheel. But will you have options as a BMW customer?
Yes, and I think that's important. First of all, I do have an iX3 at the moment. I'm driving the steering wheel. And let's say in terms of ergonomics, I didn't have a better steering wheel ever before.
In what way? Because of the shape here and the way
This shape
structured?
here,
Okay.
this is, my sons are playing a lot of PlayStation. Not that much, but you have it in control, that's the point.
Yeah.
You really feel like having that car in control. That's important. And yes, there is an option. So if as a customer, you can choose whether you want to have this kind of vertical spoke or let's say the more sporty approach where you have this kind of diagonal spokes here for the sporty steering wheels. So as long as you have the options, I think it's fine. Yeah. And then something can be polarizing as long as the customer can choose, well, that's not probably my taste, because it's just a question of taste, not a question of ergonomics. He or she can choose another steering wheel. And that's fine.
And I agree. I like my wife, when she saw the one in New York at the presentation, she absolutely loved this one because it's different and it reflects her personality. Or maybe I'm more traditional and I would go maybe for a different style.
Yeah.
But I'll have to get the iX3 with that steering wheel because of her. So I have to keep her happy. So I have
it's
no
not
saying.
your decision.
It is not mine.
Yes.
It's never been.
No, never.
But the last point I wanted to make, I drove the iX3 quite a bit. I had a trip, recently with the car, and you're absolutely right. It's so comfortable because you're resting your thumb right there, very, very nicely compared to anything that you have today. And over long distances, it's actually very relaxing, and it's hard to explain if you don't drive. I drove maybe like 1,000 kilometers, so it was quite a bit, and it was nice.
I don't know if you know that there's an insight, and that's what I've learned when I joined BMW. What the ergonomics always try to achieve is the thumb should be as close as possible to the center. With, let's say, classic horizontal spokes, because you need a certain kind of thickness of the spokes, you always have been somewhere here. For driving dynamics, the closer you are to the center, the better it is. And this was this approach behind that steering wheel. It was about driving dynamics. And this was the result.
Gotcha. Very interesting. Now let's step outside. We're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
No surprise question. But I promise that I will give you the chance to wrap this video with the overall philosophy of this sedan, right? So maybe walk me through some final points. What did you really decide to build this car in this way? And I know you've talked about skipping one generation, but maybe there is a bit more to the story and we've talked about it now.
Yeah, well, and maybe it's something I mentioned as well. The most important question we asked ourselves with, let's say, the beginning of Neue Klasse was, what is our core for BMW? And the clear answer that always came from every corner we were hearing into is, let's say, the sedan. If you would ask someone of BMW, they would say, we somehow own the sedan. So, and this was the most important aspect for creating that character. So we are talking about the character, the 3 Series, as the core. And it is the sporty sedan.
But honestly, it's probably the most iconic BMW because, the M3 is quite iconic, lovely, but the 3 Series, it's not just the icon because there are 8 generations now, but also because it's also kind of the entry level into the brand for many people, right? So you have fantastic cars today like M340i, M340d, so you don't have to go to an M car to really enjoy driving.
Yes, exactly.
And it's also interesting because you guys as a company, you're selling so many crossovers and SUVs, yet it's nice to see that you're still focused on the sedan, on the middle-sized sedan like the 5 Series and all of that, because a lot of us, can have 2 cars. So now I always want to have like a car that is fun to drive, but also I want to have a big car for the kids, basically.
True.
So I think that's great for you guys as a brand that you're staying true to this.
Yeah, and I think, no, that's not BMW. BMW is both, actually. We can do both. And something that's important as well, Horatio, everyone that owns a 3 Series, one part is, let's say, the design, the aesthetics, the wheels, the body color, but driving it in that combination is then kind of closing that entire picture. It's always this holistic approach that we are keen on for all of you, for all of us. Then at that moment you understand that's the 3 Series.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to driving the car as well. I didn't have a chance yet, but I heard it's pretty. You probably for sure. I don't think it's gonna be me. They're gonna put me last after these questions. But thank you so much for your time. Once again, I really appreciate it, and I'm sure there will be some more stuff in the future, and then we can talk about some other products because you cover a lot of them. So, and they said 40 models, in the next 2 years, including some of yours as well.
So we'll see.
So we'll redo this again. Thank you so much again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Horatio.
Cool.